All right, Freedom Phil, like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Hey, turn up the video speed. I'm going to ask this question when it comes to a lot of employers and people in general. If you want people to work, are you making it rewarding to work? Or is it just becoming kind of a ritualistic chore? You know, like people are just expected to go out and work because the other people did it and so forth and so on. But the rewards of working in the past, like for instance, if you look at how good the boomers had it, you know, they talk about, well, our interest rates in the 80s or the 70s or blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but your cost for housing was how much less? So the asset cost this much less, way much less. Yeah, your interest rates were a little high, but you actually made a decent wage comparatively. And so in the modern age where you see these people saying, well, you just need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Such boomer wisdom doesn't really work so well anymore. I mean, it is kind of true, but on the other hand, when the cost of living is so ridiculously high, we run into this problem where these young kids are like, yeah, I mean, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps 3 times as much as you have to. And at some certain point, someone just kind of looks around and says, you know, after you pay your rent, are you anything more than a glorified slave? Serious question there, right? Like, are you anything more than a glorified slave? And so I've often said, like I've said before many times, part of the reason I recommend van life, living in a tent in someone's backyard, or hell, park a van in someone's backyard, share a room, live with your parents, live however cheap you can. Live as cheap as possible, whatever way you can. Hell, if you could sneak yourself into a storage unit or whatever, I don't care how you got to do it. You just got to live cheap. But that's the reality we live in. Like we're having this new age of pioneers almost to some degree, where if you're going to actually, you know, get that bag of gold, you're working that job to get that bag of gold. And ironically, these days, it's like the price of gold is so over the top. It's like when in the early 2000s was early 200 somethings, and now it's like 4,200 for an ounce of gold. It's like, wow, you'd be better off trying to pan for it yourself. But the modern pioneer is literally the guy that can do the minimalism. But most people haven't been geared that way. They haven't been trained or taught, you know. And here's the other thing. The problem is that you also have the drug addicts, for instance, on the streets. So people that might have like, you know, gotten an RV and done something a little weird and different. Now you have all these people that used to be working at these crapper jobs, you know, that didn't used to drug test, and now they've been drug testing for a long time. But you know, you have these people that used to be functional drug addicts, functional smoker stonies and stuff, and now they're just like on the system. They're getting a check. You know, like by the way, $1,000 won't rent you a home, pay the utilities or anything. You can't afford to live on that, but that's a whole lot of drugs in an RV. Let me just tell you the truth about that. That's why you see that problem. So inevitably, what ends up happening is the pathways that the minimalistic pathway of like, hey, get a van, or you know, in some cases in cities, like they won't allow you to put up a tent in someone's backyard. Like it's your property, and you're not allowed to put up a tent in your backyard because we can't have homeless people living in tents in your backyard. They're not homeless. This is their home. They're just sleeping in a tent in the backyard. They can't do that. Well, let's just say that person was working a job and they're saving, and they might be able to save enough to pay for their trade school. Or wild thought here, they work a few crap jobs or whatever jobs they work, maybe good, maybe bad. They go to the Midwest and they pay cash for a house. Now the unhoused have a fucking house. Nope, we can't let that happen. So you understand how this could be a demotivator for a lot of good people to be good work, hardworking people? Like I'm a truck driver when I choose to work. And when I went out this last fall, this like last August, and I looked through a lot of companies and I applied at a handful of them that met the criteria I was looking for. You know what I found out is a lot of them are like, well, do you have any recent experience? What do you mean recent? I got 9 years of experience. Well, it has to be recent. A lot of these people, these like that was the first thing they were on. Like, well, your experience has to be recent because for them it's all about the fucking commission. I am not in. I'm when they say human resources, it's literally you are a part in a machine. Obviously, it's always been that way, but you are a part in a machine, and they get a commission for finding that part that fits it in the sense of like, well, do you have recent experience? I got 9 years of experience, so I've been out of the game for a few years. Well, that's too long. And why is that? Because of insurance companies. You know, that gets a lot of people thinking. And imagine you had, you know, 9 years plus surgeon, successful, accomplished, not a blemish on your record. And they're like, well, you've been out of the industry. Apparently now you're retarded. Plumbers, electricians, all that. Think about that for a second. And I know programmers will say, well, that's the way it is. No, no. In programming, what happens is the programming upgrades, and now you need to upgrade your skills. Let me tell you what the only thing that changed in trucking. Now people are using primarily automatics. So I'm sitting there looking at this situation in my industry, which always cries, we don't have enough people to drive truck. And a 9-year experience veteran of the industry. And yeah, I know some of you old timers out there. Well, I've been out for 15. Next guy, 15, 20. And then you have some really old timer at the end of the bar. Shit, I've been in this since 19 something or other. Pussies, 40 years. Like, okay. It's not a competition, guys. And man, God, if you've been in here, don't get me wrong. Some people really love trucking. Like, I actually like waking up in random locations. By the way, I love that show Beetlejuice. I love that cartoon. Ahead of its time. But I'm telling you, like, at some point you should be able to retire. There's not a lot of guys out there that are really in it for the love of the game. But then you start to question, especially when you're dealing with HR assholes. HR Karens that are just basically like, we get so many people, why should we? They get off on saying that. The way they say it, we get so many people just like you. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't get anybody like me. You maybe ran into 1 or 2 people like me in the entirety of your life. But you can tell they get off on saying that shit. Now, I'm trying to get a job, and they're like, well, you gotta suck dick to get the job. You gotta suck that dick. You gotta eat that turd sandwich, that turd hot dog. You gotta smile and like, fuck you. I'm just applying for a job. I'm applying for a job that I'm really good at. And you're making it a pain in the ass for me to do work for you? For even do it for you? Now, if I have trouble like that, what are you doing to these kids? What are you doing to these kids that are now coming out into the world? Like you butt fucked the millennials, and the millennials just bent over. Obama, come in my ass. Come on my face, Obama. Give me more student loansies. Oh my God, we're so progressive. Oh, millennial. Now, Gen Z saw the butt fucking that fucking the millennials got, and they're like, hey, whoa. Back up, motherfuckers. We're not doing that. They see the job market that doesn't want to pay them enough for them to survive. Like, you want me to work 2 or 3 jobs just so I can rent? Why don't you just call it slavery? Oh, and by the way, Trump fucked up on this one. I might like a lot of what he does, but this was a mistake. Where it's like, oh, well, a 50-year mortgage. Ain't no one want to hear about no 50-year mortgage. I tell you, when I say retirement by 30, you live as cheap as possible, live off next to nothing. And you go to the Midwest, just pay cash for a piece of land or pay cash for a whole ass house. Hell, you pay cash for an old place that's got a good well and a good septic. You could tear that down and either drag something in or build your own thing for discount prices comparatively. And by the way, building new stuff, I don't care what part of the country you're in, that's overpriced. You better learn how to do that. You better be modern Amish where you and your friends can all build your ass house. I ain't the first to say it. Aaron Clare's brought that up and he's right. But like, no, dude. I'm telling you. I am fucking telling you. If you want these kids to go out and work, you need to actually make a world that's worth working in. And it starts out with either having some sort of affordable rent. I don't want to hear you boomers talking about lazy youths out there when you've made rent cost how much more? That was you. Every generation before you basically said we need to leave a better world for our children and our grandchildren. And the boomers, they knew it all back in the 60s. I'm wholesale ripping off Clary with this one. Come on, baby, light my fire. You motherfuckers knew it all. And then somewhere in the 70s when the hangover called your unmarried sex turned into children, in some cases single mothers or married couples that were inevitably going to be divorced, no fault divorce. Wasn't that a beautiful thing? Fucking now everybody's like, the divorce Olympics. You had your hangover that happened in the 70s and you had some kids. And then it became, well, now that we're stuck working, more, give me more. It doesn't matter who I sell, who I fuck over. More, me, mine, gimme. Boy, George Carlin had that right. And that meme from The Simpsons, people, they're like back in the day, why do I need to pay Social Security? Oh, I could pay for my own retirement. And then they show a bunch of old people there waiting for the doors to open. I'm old. Give me money. Give me, give me, give me. It's so accurate. These people basically looking at you and telling you you need to work harder. So, these are people that should have worked towards having some sort of retirement, and most of them didn't. Their retirement is Social Security and food stamps and whatever government benefits. Yeah, go turn on the TV during the day. Do you have a Medicare Part A or B or C? Translation, your government's spending how much money on your TV stations, subsidizing the TV stations, by the way, to tell you that you need to get more government money, more government health care. Boy, that's an independent generation, wasn't it? And the Gen Xers, you're not much better. You're really not. Millennials, God, you were a fucking train wreck. Now, so the Zoomers are looking around going, you really expect me to go out and give my best foot forward? I mean, like I said, if a guy like me with 9 years of experience is going to have to go back to being fresh meat, and you're telling these Zoomers, hey, go out and work for slave wages. Who the fuck are you kidding? Now, me, I can live off almost next to nothing. And let me tell you one of the great truths of life. Whatever somebody else's standards are, don't fucking matter. Are you happy? I'm happy like this. I am perfectly happy. Now, I think to myself, I'd rather drive truck, park my van, save miles from going on my van, drive their truck and travel the country and get paid an obscene amount of money. But much like that Zoomer doing that calculation, should I just fake and have the hut-to-tuz? Should I apply myself and be treated like shit for X amount of years? Live a lesser quality life than my parents and grandparents lived? That's really the equation a lot of them have made. Should I give up what's my good life? Like the boomers are saying, life on easy mode, life at the golf course. We have 2 or 3 extra homes. Gen Xers, similar situation. Older Gen Xers, I should say. And then these kids are out there looking around going, well, what's left for me? It's not illogical that some of these kids are going out there and saying, if you're not going to pay me a fair wage, you're not going to pay me a living future. For my work, I should expect a good living future. Not just a living wage, a future that's worth living for, working for. Because otherwise, there's no reason not to be a fucking drifter, a bum. There's no reason not to be on the system. If you live a better life as someone who faked crazy or just cranked out a kid and got on welfare, if you live a better life as that, and by the way, if you would change the tax system and maybe did a negative tax where basically you get this much, you don't start paying taxes on your work until you get to this certain level. If you started doing more of that to where these people are like, well, fuck, why wouldn't I work? Yeah, I mean, if they could keep most of their benefits, some of their benefits, but still go out there and make some money, they might actually be better people. And if they actually got options, affordable schooling, oh my God, at-home learning, affordable, and then just go into a pub, maybe not make the trades take 4 to 5 years to become certified, to become to where you're really making the money. Like if you've got the skills, you should be able to test. And maybe make the test a harder test, but you should be able to take the goddamn test, be able to get it. Just like with trucking, you go out there, you read the book. It used to be this way. Now they fucking put a bunch of barricades and speed bumps in front of your success. But you go out there, you read the book, just like you do with the driver's test. You take the driver's test, all the written stuff, and then you go take the physical test, and then you're off to the races. And you do about 3 weeks of a driver trainer, and then, basically you're ready to go, and you get into your own truck, and you're starting to make money. Why not make it that easy? If you can pass all the written tests, if you can pass the test, shouldn't it be that easy for everything else? Well, you got to give your chunk of flesh to some old timer, some boomer, some Gen Xer, some fucking millennial. You got to give your chunk of flesh to some asshole. And why? Because this is the way it is. Well, there's another way. And there's a lot of these kids that are realizing that, hey, fake crazy, live on the system, live with mom and dad. Work hard enough to get yourself a cheap piece of land, drop an RV on it. I'd love to know what you boomers think's going to happen to GDP, your precious GDP. What's going to happen to GDP? What's going to happen to your Social Security? I live on a pension. What's going to happen to that when all the tax slaves that you need to keep working stop working? Yeah. You could sit there and say they're lazy. It's not laziness. If you're going to make it impossible for people to get a job, like I said, 9 years of experience in my case, and you're making it a pain in the ass for me to get a job, what are the hoops you're making them jump through? It's not unreasonable to stop working when you're not being compensated, if your hard work doesn't equal a better life than being a bum, then you will see more people become bums. All right. Take it easy. Freedom Phil, like, subscribe, take it easy. Y'all have a great day. And by the way, if you watch this at regular speed, I don't even know what you're doing. You should have had this at 1.5 to 1.75. Peace.